Example 4. Interpreting the terms in the product rule. A telephone company wants to estimate the number of new residential phone lines that it will need to install during the upcoming month. At the beginning of January, the company had 100,000 subscribers, each of whom had 1.2 phone lines on average. The company estimated that its subscribership was increasing at the rate of 1,000 monthly. By polling its existing subscribers, the company found that each intended to install an average of 0.01 new phone lines by the end of January. We want to estimate the number of new lines the company will have to install in January by calculating the rate of increase of lines at the beginning of the month. So, the first thing we need to do is we need to define our functions. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to let S of t be the number of subscribers, and we're going to let N of t be the number of phone lines per subscriber at time t, where t is measured in months, and t equals 0 corresponds to the beginning of January, since that's when it begins. Then the total number of lines is given by the following function. We can say that L of t is going to equal the function S of t times N of t. So what we want to find is we want to find the derivative of when t is equal to 0. So now let's talk about the product rule. So according to the product rule, okay, we have L prime of t, okay, which is going to equal the derivative with respect to t of S of t times N of t. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to be able to then use the product rule. So recall that the product rule is going to take the function f, which is S of t, times the derivative with respect to t of N of t, and then plus we're going to take N of t, and then multiply that with the derivative with respect to t of the function S of t. So that is the product rule. Now, we are also given some information in this problem. Okay, so it says here that at the beginning of January, the company had 1,000 subscribers. So with the function then, that tells us the beginning of January starts at time t, which is equal to 0. So that means that we are given the fact that S of 0 is equal to 100,000. Okay, and then also it tells us that each of whom had 1.2 phone lines on average. So again, the N of t represents the number of phone lines per subscriber at time t. So that means when N of 0 is going to equal 1.2. So we can then say that the company's estimates concerning rates of increase are the following. Okay, we can say that, okay, well, if we take a look at the next sentence, it says the company estimated that its subscribership was increasing at the rate of 100 monthly. So that means that this is a rate. If this is a rate, that means that this is a slope. If it is a slope, then that tells us it's the derivative. So therefore, we would say that the derivative of S at 0 is going to be approximately 1,000. Okay, and then it says by polling its existing subscribers, the company found that each intended to install an average of 0.01 new phone lines by the end of January. So an average of 0.01. The average is telling us that, again, this is the derivative. Okay, but this is the derivative of the phone lines. So that means that we have n, the derivative for n at 0 is going to be approximately 0.01. So what we can then say is that if we take a look at step number 2, okay, we know that the formula that we want to find, again, we want to find L prime of 0. Okay, so we know that it's S of t, which is going to be S of 0, times the derivative of n of t, which is n prime of 0, plus, we're going to take n of t, so it's going to be n of 0, and then we're going to multiply it by the derivative of S of t, which is that S prime of 0. So again, this is an approximation, so we know that S of 0 from our problem is equal to 100,000 times n prime of 0, which is 0.01, plus n of 0, which we know is equal to 1.2 from the given information. And then S prime of 0 is equal to 1,000. So therefore, that's going to give us the result that L prime of 0 is going to equal 2,200. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the company will need to install approximately 2,200 new phone lines in January. And let's summarize step number 4. Okay, it says here that notice that the two terms arising from the product rule come from different sources: old subscribers and new subscribers. So one contribution to L prime is the number of existing subscribers, 100,000, times the rate at which they order new lines at about 0.01 per subscriber monthly. And then the second contribution is the average number of lines per subscriber, which is 1.2 at the beginning of the month, times the rate of increase of subscribers, which is 1,000 monthly.